We're going to jump into the latest on Deshaun Watson, but make sure to follow us here and subscribe to the channel so you do not miss a thing on number 4 going into Week 7 against the Colts. All right, everyone, let's get into the latest injury update on Deshaun Watson, and drum roll, please. There is no real update. There is an update because he spoke to the media, but we don't have an inclination. We don't have any hardcore date set as to when Deshaun Watson is going to return. But him speaking to the media did give us a better idea as to what is going on and what the actual severity is of the injury. So let's run through the big takeaways I had when he spoke to the media today, which he did not practice as well. But he said it is up in the air as to whether or not he will play on Sunday. So we're still in limbo. We're still in a holding pattern as to when Deshaun Watson is going to return. He did say the arrow is trending up, so that's good. But he also said, I can't put a timeline on his return. So not ideal, right? You'd like to have a concrete answer. We all just want to know when Deshaun Watson is going to return. Now, him speaking to the media did offer some clarity on a key detail in the Watson injury timeline that has had a lot of people very confused and even have some people getting tinfoil hats on and conspiracy theorists on us because he was supposed to play in Week 4, right? He told us at his locker on Friday, I'm going to be good to go. And then after a pregame warm-up, he was not able to play against the Ravens. But Watson said he did not get the MRI results until Saturday night and that the bruising and the swelling was too bad on his shoulder to get a clear picture of his shoulder. So once they got the MRI results on Saturday night, which was after he spoke to everyone on Friday saying he'd be good to go on Sunday, that's when they found out it was a rotator cuff injury. My theory is that up until that point, they did not know it was a rotator cuff injury. So they thought it might just be a pain tolerance type issue of he's got a bit of a bad shoulder, but listen, it's the NFL. No one is 100% after Week 1. He can soldier on through for 1 week until the bye. Then they found out, hey, a rotator cuff injury is something that if it's aggravated, you could be out for a long period of time. Go see what happened to Anthony Richardson. He's likely lost for the rest of the year. So my theory, right, my Brian Windhorst idea is Watson went through the warm-ups, right, worked out Sunday, was hoping he'd wake up feeling better. Ultimately, that was not the case. Jimmy Haslam might have made a phone call to Kevin Stefanski and the crew and everyone saying, I didn't pay $230 million for this guy to play through a shoulder injury a week before the bye, only to have it aggravated by Roquan Smith and the rest of the Ravens, and then lose him for the rest of the year. You better proceed with caution. So now that they know what the injury is, they are proceeding with caution, and they're not going to have him back on the field until he's as close as possible to 100% because it's the NFL. No one is really 100%. But Deshaun Watson did have this quote from his presser-ish today where he said, on his return, it could be any day. It could be tomorrow, it could be Sunday, it could be 2 weeks from now. I'm not sure. I can't put a timeline on anything right now. So I don't know if Watson's going to play Sunday because Watson doesn't know if he is going to play Sunday, right? It would be one thing if he was giving us some signs of there's no chance I play, but he's working his tail off to rehab and get back on the field as soon as possible. So hard to say one way or another. Now, Tom Withers did tweet this out from the Watson presser today where he says, Deshaun Watson on whether he can be 100% this season. I'm not sure, he said. This is my first time dealing with a rotator cuff. So I'm trying to get as comfortable as I possibly can to go out there and perform at the level I know I can. Now, that might spark some fear, right? That might ignite like a bad feeling inside of, oh my gosh, Watson's not going to be 100% the rest of the season. Can I cue you guys in on a secret here? No one's going to be 100% the rest of the season. Myles Garrett got in a car crash last year, flipped his beautiful sports car over, and proceeded to have 16 sacks the rest of the way. So you know what? I'm not shocked at Deshaun Watson saying, I might not be 100%. It's October. You want to know what the injury status for everyone is? It's October. No one's going to be out there running like it is July anymore. So don't be too alarmed by this. This is true for everyone. Kirk Cousins played through a very serious injury last year, and none of us really knew it because it's the National Football League, right? Patrick Mahomes had no ankle practically and won a Super Bowl. It's the National Football League. But get your predictions in down below. Will Deshaun Watson play this Sunday? I want to get your best shot, so let me know if you think he will, yes or no, down in the comment section. With all that being said, we all just huddle up for just one quick moment here before you leave the video. You can worry about the Browns losing because Deshaun Watson is out, right? Your star quarterback, if your starting quarterback is not playing, that's a fair fear to have that your team is going to lose as a result. That is completely in bounds and a very reasonable opinion and take to have. But can we end the conspiracy theories about something's really going on here? After Deshaun Watson painted a clear picture of, I didn't get the MRI results until Saturday because we couldn't get a clear picture until then because the swelling had not gone down. And once we learned it was a rotator cuff injury, after I told everyone on Friday I'm going to play, well, that's a pretty fair change to have, right? That's a very big change, a very big materialistic change of, I didn't know I had a rotator cuff injury on Friday. Once I found out on Saturday I had one, yeah, that's going to impact my status on Sunday. I mean, it's like some people have never heard of an injury before, right? And then we have some media members who, whether they like Deshaun Watson or not, they're always going to have a secret agenda and narrative they want to push. And I'm not saying that these people don't like Deshaun Watson, but we all know it by now that there are people out there that don't like Watson as much as they like Baker, and so they are going to cover Deshaun Watson a little bit more harshly. But Tony Grossi tweeted out, I would say Deshaun Watson's mood, we're doing mood checks now, was somewhat somber for somebody on the verge of coming back after a 3-week injury. And now he's not practicing today per the club. So basically you can read between the lines here. Tony hinting at Watson potentially not playing on Sunday, which, you know what? Yeah, he's got a shoulder injury. Nothing's a guarantee with a shoulder injury as for when he is going to return. All right? Hayden Grove. I think these are all fine, good reporters, but God, they're getting in their feels right now. Deshaun Watson will not practice today, but he could tomorrow or Friday. And then he could play Sunday or could not. I know I'm being cheeky, but seriously, the only clarity is there's not a lot of clarity here. What more clarity do you want, Hayden? The guy's got a shoulder injury. It's his right shoulder, and he's an NFL quarterback. Of course, that there's not a lot of clarity as to when it's going to be 100% he's going to come back. I have never heard of an injury before where in advance they go, you know what, October 24th, he's going to wake up and he's going to be 100%. Yeah, I'm not shocked that this thing is going to take a little bit of time. It's okay to be impatient. It's okay to be nervous that he's going to miss more games because you are better with him than without him. But the idea of there's no clarity here, what do you mean? They told you the injury. It's a rotator cuff injury. 2 to 6 week timeline. We're in the middle of it. What more clarity do you really want? Tom Withers also adding, I'm more confused than ever about Watson's situation. So many unknowns. What's unknown, Tex? They told us all what the injury was. It's a rotator cuff injury. 2 to 6 week timeline. You could be unknown and be confused after that week 4 game when he said he was going to play on Friday and then he didn't play on Sunday. That's confusing, right? But when he spoke to the media for the first time since the injury, and I think fairly and detailed what the injury was and why he said he was going to play and then when it was unable to play because of the MRI results, well, I think it's pretty clear to me what's going on. To me, it's like some of these people have never heard of an injury before. If your starting pitcher injures their elbow, injures their throwing shoulder, injures their throwing arm, and they go on the IL, I think as a baseball community, we're all like, well, we'll see you in a few weeks. We don't really know exactly when because you're a pitcher and it's your throwing arm, but it'll be a couple of weeks. But no one is banking on you returning for Game 3 of the series on Sunday against the Pirates. No. I think the same logic can apply to a quarterback with a shoulder injury. We don't quite know when he's going to be able to go, but if he can't go, it's probably because he can't really throw the football all that well. Hopefully that improves soon, obviously, but the fact that we know what the injury is, a rotator cuff contusion with microscopic tears, as Watson described as basically like if you cut yourself at the top of your hand or cut your skin, those types of tiny little paper cuts on the muscle. That's going to take, you want to know how long to heal? 2 to 6 weeks. And you know how many weeks it's been? He missed the Ravens week. There was the bye week, the 49ers week. We're 3 weeks out of 6 weeks. So it could be, are you sitting down for this? A few more weeks. Like now that we know all the details, now it's just a waiting game. Right now we just got to wait and see, is it 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, or 6 weeks? If we get past 6 weeks, sure. Full blown, what the heck is going on? We were told a 2 to 6 week injury. We were told everything structurally is fine. But now it's been 2 months and we haven't seen him. Clearly there's more to this. Like maybe at the beginning it was a little sketch with the way Stefanski said Watson was medically cleared to go, but he didn't play. So it's like, well, that's confusing. How can he be medically cleared to go and not play? Then Andrew Berry kind of covers Stefanski's tracks when he spoke to the media 2 days later. But here we are after the bye. Yeah, he missed the 49ers game. That's a bummer. The rest of the team rallied, and they won. And now we're going into the Colts week, and we know what the injury is, and we know the timeline, and we're in the middle of the timeline. All right, moving on to the rest of the injury report here. Deshaun Watson, of course, not practicing today, like we said. Kareem Hunt not practicing as well with a thigh injury. Fingers crossed he could go Sunday. Harrison Bryant with a hip injury did not practice. Greg Newsome is dealing with a hamstring injury. And Anthony Walker is in concussion protocol. So that's the rest of the injury report for Cleveland going into Week 7. And before we get to the rest of today's show and talk about Jacoby Brissett and P.J. Walker, today's sponsor, BetUS, has an awesome deal for the Dog Pound. When you go to chatsports.com/bet and use promo code Browns125, enter both those pieces of information in, and you're going to get a 125% deposit bonus. Okay, let's talk about Plan B, which was Plan A last week, and that is P.J. Walker. Stefanski said that P.J. Walker will continue to be the backup quarterback as long as Watson, well, that's not quite true. P.J. Walker is going to start this upcoming Sunday against Indianapolis if Deshaun Watson cannot go. What we don't know is if Deshaun Watson returns, does P.J. Walker remain the backup? Because remember, P.J. Walker is not on the active 53-man roster right now. He is on the practice squad. You can call a player up 3 times from the practice squad before you have to make a decision. Add him to the 53-man roster or move on from them. So for now, the Browns are likely going to max out those 3 53-man roster additions before having to find a roster spot for someone else. If someone tried to claim P.J. Walker, then the Browns would obviously add him to the 53-man roster to avoid losing him. But for now, it's going to be Walker round 2 if Watson cannot go. And he's got to be better because the defense was phenomenal against San Francisco, but you're playing with fire if you need your defense to play at that elite level week after week. Looking ahead to the upcoming schedule, let's say Watson, just stick with me for a moment, can't go this Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts, which you never want to assume a gimme, but I think we all can agree we're a lot more confident in the Browns beating the Colts without Watson compared to beating the 49ers. So, if you beat the 49ers without Watson, you can assume maybe they could do the same against Indianapolis, but it's the NFL. So, if you don't have Watson against the Colts, that would be no Ravens game, bye week, 49ers, Colts. That's 4 weeks, that's 3 games. Hopefully, he could be able to return for at Seattle, which is going to be a tough place to go and play. Then you have the Cardinals at home in Week 9. Kyler Murray could be playing in that game. He was activated off the PUP list and off the injury reserve or whatever. Buda Baker off IR. But anyway, they opened up Kyler Murray's practice window. So maybe he practices this week and then he gets to go Week 8 or Week 9. So I don't think we're going to have a Josh Dobbs reunion in that game. It very well could be Kyler Murray playing at that point. Week 10, they go to Baltimore. Week 11, they play the shitty Steelers. Now, let's talk about trading for Jacoby Brissett. After going through that schedule, if we get bad news down the pipe, and that is Deshaun Watson is going to go to short-term IR. And then you could have some confusion of how do you end up on short-term IR after it being a couple of days potentially returning soon. So let's just assume that in another universe, Deshaun Watson does go to short-term IR. Should the Browns go and trade for Jacoby Brissett? Last year, we all know that what he did was awesome. Like the way he stepped into a very tough situation of, hey, you're the starting quarterback, but also you're not the moment Deshaun Watson returns. And we know that the entire NFL is rooting against us because they traded for Deshaun Watson. Do you mind being the starting QB for 2/3 of the year? And Brissett's like, sure, and I'm going to do one hell of a job doing it as well. The only way I'd be open to trading for Jacoby Brissett is if Deshaun Watson goes to IR. That is really the only interest I'll ever have in trading for Brissett because I just don't see the logic in trading for Brissett, bringing him in midseason, having him start. Let's say you trade for him on like a Monday. You're starting on Sunday, right? Because if you trade for him on a Monday and you don't want him to start that week and Watson's not on IR, well, there's a good chance that 13 days later, when you would have Brissett be ready to go, Watson's back. So I'm not interested in giving up a draft pick on the potential that Deshaun Watson might not be able to go. But if Deshaun Watson goes to IR, then you know for a fact 4 games he is out. And yes, I would rather have Jacoby Brissett over PJ Walker for 4 games, but potential Jacoby Brissett for just 1 game, maybe 2. No, I'll stick with Walker, who has been here this entire season, and not having Brissett come over and try and pick things up in the middle of the year. But if you were the GM, would you trade for Jacoby Brissett? Let me know down in the comment section with a T for trade or a P for pass. Other injury news I want to hit on before I let everyone go. Joel Bitonio is back at practice. That is awesome to see. Unfortunately, his Ironman streak of, over 100 straight starts came to an end this past Sunday against the Niners. But it's great to see Bitonio back on the field, and he should be ready to go this Sunday against Indianapolis because they definitely need Bitonio. The Browns have already lost Bitonio's backup, Michael Dunn. The Browns themselves tweeted out, "We have placed Michael Dunn on injured reserve." Michael Dunn did not miss a snap on Sunday. I don't know if I've ever heard of a player playing every single snap and going on injured reserve 2 days later. Like basically, with the injury he suffered was a calf injury, was so bad that he is going to miss the next 4 weeks at least. But he was so tough that he was going to play through that calf injury that would knock him out for 4 weeks. Like, clap it up for Michael Dunn for a moment. That is absolutely incredible. I'd love to know how often players who go on IR did not miss a single snap in the prior game. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit me up on Twitter if you ever want to talk Brownies, @MatthewPeterson. I'm going to sign off and see you all later.